Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope everyone's being safe and careful during the COVID outbreak at the moment, the third wave, and I hope you're all doing safe and I hope you're all doing well. This is a scope that I had bought about 6 years ago, and it has performed quite well for the price bracket that I bought it in. So therefore, I considered making a quick review about this scope. The price at which I bought it for was about 10 to 12,000 or 9 to 12,000, somewhere in that bracket, about 6 years ago. And it was purchased from Garkhana Market or some place in Peshawar. I did not get it myself. A friend got it for me. Now, the reason I like this scope and I picked this scope was because it had emergency sights. Emergency sights matter a great deal to me when you have a tactical scope in case of an emergency. I once went through an emergency as such that I had a wild boar charge at me at very close range during a boar hunt. After that incident, I decided that if I ever get a medium range scope, a mid range scope, I would want to have emergency sights or some form of backup contingency in case I get charged at by a boar or any other situation. So I've used this scope on a lot of different platforms. I've used it quite extensively on a PCP airgun, which would be the BD65 Elite. And it worked really, really well. And most importantly, it held its zero. I used it a lot on 22s. I used it on an AR-15 and a few 7.62 platforms. And it held its zero all the time. The railing on the side are really useful in case you want to add a torch and whatever else you'd want to add on it. Personally, I preferred to put a laser sight on it when I used it with a 22 or a PCP. Adding a laser to it was pretty useful, and I generally had the laser zeroed at exactly 35 meters, which was a pretty good range for a laser, and this is the way I usually kept it. What I liked the most about the scope was the price. It was in a price bracket that did not break the bank. It was, I wouldn't say that it's very cheap, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it's too expensive for a person to afford. In my opinion, it's a pretty well priced scope. Considering the entire scope is made of steel, or not steel, but I guess aluminum, and you have different settings in which you could use the scope. Pretty easy to use, a bit hard, but pretty easy to use, pretty easy to understand. Right now it's on red, and there you go. Now it is on blue. So you have red, green, and blue. I generally don't really use the illumination too much on the crosshairs. I prefer it without any illumination, but whatever works for you. And this is where you zero the scope from. Pretty easy to use. What I really loved about it, as I said earlier, was that the zero always holds in this scope. And it was pretty easy to set, pretty easy to zero in. So that is the reason why I really like this scope. The price is really difficult to beat in today's market. I mean, if you were to type in this name on Google, you could find out everything you want to know about this scope. The brand name is Sniper, and the name is PM4x32. It's a 4x scope, by the way, and I'm pretty happy with it. The last time I took it to a range, a lot of friends of mine really liked it, and they were impressed that it's held at zero for the past 6 years, not given any major issues. And My friends actually wanted to find out where I got it from, and they actually wanted to buy one of this scope. The few friends who saw it. And that is the reason why I'm reviewing this scope, because in Pakistan, in today's market, very difficult to find a good scope that actually works and holds its zero. Other than that, what problems did I face in this scope that was a issue for me? I will explain that to you in detail. The only issue I really came upon when it comes to this scope was these two screws over here. I went to the range, I fired hundreds of rounds, and it was used on an AR-15, and I don't know why, maybe because of the recoil, these two screws got loose. Because of these two screws getting loose, this platform over here, which is basically what you mount the, which helps you mount the scope to the rifle, the mount, because of that happening, the scope started to move a little bit back and forth. So it took me 1 second to tighten these two screws, and after that it was working fine. What I plan to do in the future is that there is a product, I do not know exactly what its name is. I think it's called a screw lock or thread lock glue. I believe using that on these two screws would end whatever issues they have, because a few hundred rounds is not that much of an amount that would make your scope mess up a little bit. But it was pretty easy to fix. It just took a few seconds with the Allen wrench and it was back to normal. What I found quite interesting was that once I had tightened the screws, the zeroing was exactly where it was supposed to be. I have used this scope pretty extensively around the 50 to 100 meters range, and I think that it is perfect for that. At 100 meters, I was able to form a okay group, not a great group, an okay group, and I guess that's what it is for. It's not a sort of rifle. I mean, it's not a sort of scope that you would want to mount maybe on a 308 or on any kind of heavy caliber. I really would not find this scope suitable for it. I think it's best for a PCP, a 22, a 223, maybe a 7.6239 if these two screws do not give you much trouble. But ideally, for the AR-15 platform, it is really good. And on YouTube, I even found someone reviewing the same scope on using it on a AR-15. So I'm sure you guys know that I do not review things just for the sake of reviewing them. I review stuff that could be useful for the Pakistani sportsman, hunter, or whatever you have going for you. This scope is a must-buy if you encounter it anywhere. I don't think it would be very difficult to find. In Karkhana market, I was able to find it a few times. In Peshawar, I was able to generally locate it without too much difficulty. So if you are able to buy this scope, and online it says that the scope costs $80. I don't know how much it's going to cost over here. I think that if you find this scope, if it fits your budget, I'm not sure exactly what the price is right now because I bought it 6 years ago, but if it fits your budget, then I would consider this scope a really good purchase. Thank you for watching my review of this scope. Again, I'm not a scope expert. I barely know much about any scopes at all. I personally prefer iron sights to a scope, but thank you very much for watching my review. Hope this helped you out. Have a great day.